The Climax.
Overseas now, and the mystery death of singer George Michael. Authorities in London today revealing initial post-mortem results are inconclusive. More tests will be needed to determine the exact cause of death. His manager says Michael died of apparent heart failure in his home on Christmas Day. Police do not suspect foul play. Back here at home, into an ABC News exclusive, Todd Fisher speaking out for the first time on camera. Stunned by the painful loss of his sister Carrie Fisher and mother Debbie Reynolds. The two dying just a day apart. And the family now planning a memorial service for mother and daughter. Fisher sitting down with ABC News and revealing their final personal moments. Here's ABC's Matt Gutman.
If I loved you,
it's magical, the love story that went on for 60 years. And I got to see 58 and 3/4 of it.
They were close in life and will be closer in memory. Debbie Reynolds' son, Todd Fisher, in an exclusive interview telling 2020's Elizabeth Vargas the family is planning to hold a dual funeral service for the Singing in the Rain star,
life was a song,
who died Wednesday, and her daughter, who played the indomitable Princess Leia, who died just a day earlier.
We're going to have a joint service for them. We're going to put them together, and that's how she would want it.
Todd Fisher recounting his mother's final moments just hours after Carrie Fisher's passing.
She then said that she really wanted to be with Carrie.
She said that.
In those precise words. And within 15 minutes from that conversation, she faded out. And within 30 minutes, she technically was gone.
That bond began with her children watching adoringly. This 1964 photograph of Carrie mesmerized by her mother performing on stage in Las Vegas.
We always were sitting in the wings watching my mother on stage in awe.
There were rough patches, but if anyone could handle Carrie Fisher's addictions and battle with bipolar disorder, Todd says it was their mother.
It's horrible. It's beautiful. It's magical. They're together.
And they'll be together in perpetuity. Todd Fisher telling us that mother and daughter will be buried side by side right next to old friends like Liberace and Betty Davis here in Los Angeles. He also tells us there will be a private family service and a public one for their millions of fans. Tom.
An incredibly revealing interview. Matt, thank you.
So, as you heard at the very, very beginning of this episode is absolutely dedicated to Carrie Fisher, who died this past week at the age of 60. Very young. Of course, I think any age is young. I kind of half jested, and I assure you it's a half jest, that, we may be living in a generation where some people, may never die, like that life extension technology and all that is getting there. Unfortunately, Carrie Fisher will not be able to take advantage of that. Also, George Michael died the day previous to, I believe it was the day, or maybe just the day before, or, 2 days before, that Carrie Fisher died. And then the day after Carrie Fisher died, of course, Carrie Fisher's mother, the very famous Debbie Reynolds, died as well. And you heard all in that clip, a lot of the reactions and thoughts to that. And you heard from Debbie Reynolds' son and, of course, Carrie Fisher's brother, Todd Fisher, about all of that. So, the past couple weeks on this show, we've been talking about Star Wars. Obviously, it is no secret that I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, just fucking massive. I just got a couple more of, what equate to these visual guides that equate to, encyclopedias for the Star Wars universe, and they all act in universe. And I tear into these things because I want to know everything, just as much as I want to know everything about the reality I live in. I am the same way with the fictions and the franchises I love. I want to know everything that's happening inside of them. I could say a lot about George Michael as well. I'm certainly a fan. Not as big a fan, say, as some of the others who passed away this year. Of course, we opened the show up with a song by Prince from the Batman soundtrack, the song Trust, one of my favorites. Prince is certainly, that one hit me hard. And on, was it the 28th, I believe, of 2015, not of 2016, but it was really is kind of how this, it feels like a lot of these celebrity deaths really started, was when Lemmy Kilmister died. And I'm just a huge Motorhead fan. I mean, huge, like, I'm 6'1", 205, 205 pounds. I'm a big guy, but, yeah, I mean, George Michael was phenomenal. I'm not going to take anything away from that. Just fantastic songs. I talked a little bit about this on this week's Patreon Q&A episode, and I kind of jested, and I meant it in a flattering way. I assure you, that the song by George Michael or Wham, whatever, was called Last Christmas, that really took on a whole new meaning, didn't it? And yeah. One of the greats. I mean, even a guy, I was listening to George Michael. He had that album come out, I think in 2004 called Patience. And that was, I mean, the title track on that was fantastic. It was an awesome album. As far as, the cause of his death, some people saying drugs, some people saying they have, it's inconclusive. They don't know. A shame either way, because with George Michael in particular, well, really both of the deaths, I guess, that I'm talking about or concentrating on here. I won't be concentrating on Debbie Reynolds so much, but certainly that's a loss as well. But both people here, Carrie Fisher and George Michael, really pushed the cultural envelope as far as, with George Michael, the acceptance of homosexuality; with Carrie Fisher, the acceptance of the idea that a woman could kick ass. Like a woman could kill, a gigantic gangster, right? That being Jabba the Hutt, and do it looking good. I mean, and all kinds of things that, wow, leading a rebellion. I mean, yeah, it's fiction. I get that. George Michael wasn't fiction. His struggle with, getting acceptance, in broader society in the world was a very real one, as to where Carrie Fisher had her own issues. She had, certainly mental illnesses that she had struggled with and battled. And, it looks like she came out on top, a phenomenon. I mean, so yeah, George Michael, I mean, again, both of these people, really, really were very much trendsetters in what they did. And, and the validity and the viability they brought to everything that they were doing, whether it's on stage or off. But I got to say, the death of Carrie Fisher, this one, like I said, Prince hit me hard. Lemmy hit me kind of hard, or, hit me pretty hard. I mean, and there have been other tragic ones, some for me that were actually very personal, people, not celebrities, but, very personal people that definitely, hit me hard, and others. Yeah, I mean, there's been some big names, Leonard Cohen. I mean, there's so many, so many of these celebrities that a lot of people grew up with or have known for decades that passed away. And I mean, it's a shitty year. It was a really shitty year. But, I got to say that, Carrie Fisher dying, like this one really hit. Like the day that it happened, I remember the day that it happened, and I was like, I felt out of it. Like I felt, I don't know, like, I mean, this is what happens with death, after deaths, there becomes a new normal, and a part of your reality really gets stripped away from you. These people are part of your worldview. They're part of, what you see, what you expect, what you anticipate in everyday life. And when they go away, that's gone. So yeah, in a very real sense, your reality gets stripped out from underneath you. And, it's not just that, like, I mean, because I think some people might want to simplify it and say, well, you're just mad that she won't be in episode 9 or something, which, that's a big question in the air. Is she going to be, because she reprised her role and regained a lot of fame recently because of her amazing performance in episode 7 of Star Wars, The Force Awakens last year. And as far as we know, she is completely done with filming for episode 8. So she'll be in episode 8, no matter what. Episode 9 is where things are in question. And of course, what might happen is that, maybe they'll just do a CGI overlay on an actor, much like they did with Rogue One, right? Spoiler alert, but if you didn't know that already, come on. I don't know, but that's in a lot of ways, that's not what this is about. I mean, in the 70s, you kind of, I think there was the start to having really powerful female characters. You could say, I mean, I don't know if you want to count Charlie's Angels or, like certainly Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, or even in the early 80s, you would have Aaron Gray, playing a Colonel Wilma Deering in Buck Rogers. And in some other, I mean, and certainly, Nichelle Nichols, who's amazingly still alive. I was so concerned, I mean, with all the deaths happening in 2016, you'd think she would have been, but her playing Uhura was, one of the original, women that was able to, at least to some degree, display that they're a human being on television, especially as a black woman, even more so. But yeah, like I don't remember, life without Star Wars. And when you stick with it, when you don't lose your, and I understand why, it kind of gets beaten out of kids, sometimes metaphorically, sometimes literally, so that certain, that penchant for imagination and creativity, if you can keep that, if you can survive out of childhood with that intact, I never gave up on a lot of that stuff. I never gave up on Star Wars, obviously never gave up on Star Trek, never gave up on a lot of these things. And, I talked about, like I said, I talked about this a little bit on the Patreon Q&A. We're going into overtime, by the way, affiliates, if you didn't already notice. But we're, I want to talk about this a bit. In the 80s and 90s, I mean, now it's not like it's any different, just the devices are different. But, a lot of parents would sit their kid down in front of the television and maybe they'd pop in a tape on the VCR or they'd teach you how to do it yourself. And, you could watch shit all day long, and the parents couldn't be happier because they could go off and do their own thing, right? They could be the absentee landlord, of your life. And so, I've said this many times over the years and it's, I still stand by it, and people somehow get confused by what I'm saying. I don't fucking understand what's so hard to get about this. But, for a lot of us, like, TV raised us. Our parents didn't, TV did. What the TV was, a lot of what the TV was saying, we sort of integrated. Fortunately for me, I feel like what I integrated was, pretty good ethical stuff. Like watching Star Trek and Star Wars, and Star Trek has some very powerful, great, even, dare I say, libertarian, moral messages to dole out there. I mean, and honestly, the show was like almost admitted by some of the producers, it was a very subversive show in bringing on a lot of, new cultural ideas and new cultural, almost, I don't want to say norms, but, Star Trek was the first show where a white man and a black woman kissed. It's the first time anybody ever saw that on television. What are you going to do about that? When that would have, that was unheard of at the time, or, not really acceptable at all. And, but Star Wars kind of had the same thing where it certainly, I think it shows a kid to appreciate kind of adventure and just it gives such a great framework for your imagination to run wild, because when you watch that, like that the universe is fucking huge, and as long as you're not some kind of, nut job flat earther like that, that's very exciting. And to see such, for me, to see, as a young person, to see such a powerful female character, in both genres. I mean, Star Trek and Star Wars were kind of my big thing growing up, and Battlestar Galactica, but I didn't get to see that as often. But, and up until the 90s when Babylon 5 came out, then that became a big deal. But it was, it was true for most of those as well, that, you thankfully you had these, just ridiculously powerful, take no shit female characters. And that was, I thought that was so, that was so cool. And I think in many ways it's great role modeling, because it allowed me to, and if you want to disagree with this, go fucking ahead. Okay. But I'm going to have my say, cause it's my goddamn show. Okay. It allowed me to respect my female friends. I've had more female friends in my life than I ever had guy friends, frankly. And why is that? Maybe it's because I just treated them like normal people, because I grew up watching Princess Leia saying, "Get into the chute, flyboy." you know, and constantly insulting and, you know, making a mockery out of, you know, these dimwits trying to rescue her. Right. I mean, it's awesome. And that came off as so legit because of the acting prowess of, you know, of Carrie Fisher. You know, there's something to be said for separating the art from the artist. Certainly that needs to be done, but there are parts, obviously, of the actor that ends up in the act, you know, that ends up in the character. And I think she delivered, you know, she really, really delivered on a lot of that. And it was you know, it was so cool. And I mean, definitely one of my first crushes. I like to say my first crush was, you know, was Saavik from Star Trek II, played by, oh wow, that's terrible that I can't think of her name from Cheers. Anyway, but you know, yeah, Carrie Fisher was just one of those where it's like, oh yeah. All right. And, you know, I got to give credit to Disney, and there's a lot to be said for this, is that, you know, I give credit to Disney for, you know, and I talked about this in my Rogue One review a couple of weeks ago. You know, they have quadrupled by orders of magnitude. They have increased the amount of women in the Star Wars universe when for a time there was pretty much only one. I mean, yeah, there was Mon Mothma, there was the gal on Hoth, you know, I know that, but really the only one that actually had any fleshed out character, you had one. You had Princess Leia. As far as guys, I mean, you had Luke, you had Vader, you had Han Solo, you had Lando Calrissian. I mean, you had, you know, Chewie. You had tons of them. And for Leia to be able to carry, you know, for Carrie Fisher really to be able to carry the franchise, no pun intended there, of Star Wars on sheer force of personality, and making it viable, you know, to where, like, you know, guys recognize the strength of the woman involved, and where, you know, a lot of female fans got in on it. I mean, that's really an achievement, you know, in the middle of a goddamn sausage fest. You know, she delivered. And this is to say nothing of her, you know, of Carrie Fisher's other multitude of talents. I mean, you know, as a script writer, as a script editor, as a writer, in acting in other movies, of course, When Harry Met Sally, Drop Dead Fred, one of my favorite movies of all time. You know, just a slew of parts that she's been in, a lot of which you probably didn't know. I mean, she never really stopped acting. You know, how do you get any higher profile than Star Wars? You fucking can't. Okay. But, you know, she was still a big part of it. You know, a big part of Hollywood and all that in a million ways, either behind the camera or on it. So yeah, you know, for all of that, yeah, I mean, this one really, really hit me hard. And I'm not saying that it should have, but it did. I don't know. You know, I remember saying on this show when Prince died, I said, you know, and you know, I still know this and I feel this. You know, I know that the older I get, I mean, and please, I'm just 35. Okay. But I know that the older I get, the more I have to leave behind. I understand. Okay. But I just don't, you know, I don't want to, like, and I know that this is like, okay. So I said this on social media the other day, right? I was like, look, I've made a career, okay, out of hating everything new, out of hating everything. All right. And business is good. All right. You know, 2017, here we go. I mean, that's so much of what I get out there on Sovryn Tech. But, you know, I like to bring up, no, I don't hate everything. There's things I'm interested in. I'm interested in cryogenics, life extension technology. I'm interested in virtual reality. I am totally bullish on virtual reality. Let's go, let's do it. But I know when I, you know, do some introspection, when I, you know, look at myself and say, all right, why do you get excited about virtual reality? Well, part of it is because I think that in many ways, like, I could keep those things. I don't have to leave those things behind anymore. With virtual reality, in many ways, they could stay with me in ways that I could interact with them, not just in the fact that, you know, there's something to be said that, yes, as long as we remember Carrie Fisher, as long as we continue to experience and enjoy perhaps even the character of Princess Leia, who is, I've said for years, is my favorite Star Wars character and all this, that in many ways, she's still alive. Now, please, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in an afterlife whatsoever. When you're done, you're done. And you don't get to upload your brain either, to to a tin can. Okay. The person's gone. But, you can still kind of enjoy in a very strange way. I think, that's one of the reasons I get excited about VR is because, I in some ways I could still experience all this. So, I recognize that's what's going on there. So, but I don't want to leave this stuff behind anymore. I don't, and I'm sitting here recording this. It's 6 p.m. on, December 31st, 2016. And, I'm kind of like, are we going to get some kind of news in the next 6 hours? Is William Shatner going to go? Like who's, who's going to go? And you 2 points. And I'm trying to express this, and I think I'm being really long-winded with it. But look, I'm trying to say that some of these people, they're just celebrities. Now, I've had the pleasure, fortunately, years ago, of meeting Carrie Fisher and talking with her. She was a wonderful woman. Okay. I've had the pleasure of meeting, sometimes even befriending some of my heroes, full-on celebrities in my life. Okay. And you could say, well, a lot of them you never meet. They're never going to really be a part of their life. They're not even like who they are in real life, who they are on the camera or on the printed page or on the CD or whatever. But look, you internalize these people. They become a part of your experience. They become a part of your human journey. They become the journey of your life. They're not just other people. They're not just some people are just celebrities. I wish no harm to anyone, and I don't want anyone to die. Okay. Longtime listeners of this show know how I feel about all that. All right. But really, Kim Kardashian going, I don't want her to go. I'm just saying that somehow I don't know how that's going to impact, the world in such a heavy way as some of these other celebrities. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm not picking on a woman by no means. Okay. It's the first example that comes to my mind. Okay, there are people who seem to just be celebrities and somehow they're just celebrities for breathing air, and I don't get it. But some of these people really delivered something incredible, to our lives. Something foundational, perhaps. Some of these people go, it fucking hurts. And if it all happens in a short span of time, and you want to, rail against it. Here's my second point. And you want to fucking rail against it, and just call it an abstract thing like a year. It's a popular thing on social media right now, or, for the past year. It's like, damn it, 2016, what the fuck? Stop taking people. And you know what? I noticed in the past few days, past week, maybe there's a lot of people saying, stop blaming an arbitrary number. No, shut up. Do you think people are that dumb that they actually think 2016 is some kind of corporeal entity that, is killing people? No, of course it's not. Nobody believes that. So shut your fucking mouth and let people grieve in whatever way they need to. Even if maybe it didn't really mean anything to them until the person died, at least they get to connect with other human beings over it. Let people connect. Stop telling them what they should and shouldn't feel. Even people that I think, like in my circles, that really should be able to, that in my opinion, have a good grasp on death, as in there's no afterlife, and, or that, kind of the finality of it and all this stuff. When they come off as fucking assholes towards people who are in some form of grief, man, And and some of these people are the people that are going around telling others how they should act and how they should, operate life outside of, if there were no governments and all this and the nature of property and the nature of human existence. You don't understand shit. And it's obvious in just your fucking, dickish comments. Or people complaining about, oh, great, somebody else died. Now my Facebook feed is going to be filled with pictures of this person. Let people grieve. Let people feel something, for fuck's sake. With so much fake in this world, let people feel something goddamned real. it just makes it worse. It really does. You know, like, I mean, I've been to, in my family, just in my family alone, I've been to so many funerals. I hate it. In the military, I had to deal with so many, which you could barely call funerals. Okay. And there were times where, you know, I you know, just dealt with it and, you know, didn't have any emotions whatsoever and just shut everything down and shut it all off and, you know, and dealt with it. But you know what I did? I didn't complain about the fact that other people were crying, or I didn't complain about how other people were acting about it, or if they were, you know, being perhaps, you know, kind of hysterical. And I mean that with all respect. It's just a way to define the actions, you know, waving, arm waving and all this other shit. Okay. I just went silent. And that's what people just need to do. Okay. If you know, really, if you are just going to rip on people for grieving, just shut your mouth. Anyway, this is one that hit a lot of people hard. Carrie Fisher. Just a, you know, not a perfect woman, not a perfect person. Who the fuck is? But she really, really, you know, delivered. I think she inspired, I should say, so many people. She certainly inspired me. And I really think she had a lot more work to do. I think she could have continued to inspire. How many people talked about when The Force Awakens came out, how wonderful it was that with having Carrie Fisher on the cast and being such a prominent character, obviously, that finally you could see a woman, you know, that was supposed to be in her 60s or something. I mean, even though she was only 60 at the time, you know, and be 60 instead of having to get masked to look like she was 40 or 30 or something, right? Like that she could actually be old. She could have wrinkles and it was okay to see that on the screen. That's huge. Still inspiring. You know, even decades after she last played the character. But now she's gone. You know, I'm kind of reminded, and if you chuckle about this, I understand, because it's somewhat of, you know, being somewhat joculant, but, you know, I'm reminded of a quote from Attack of the Clones, from Episode 2 of Star Wars, where Anakin says, "I will even learn to stop people from dying." Now, he said it with a modicum of bad acting. I say it with conviction. You know, maybe I won't learn myself, but I'm certainly going to support those that are trying to put a stop to this thing, because I am just so done with people dying. Too many are going. Too many people that were just, you know, too integral, at least in my opinion, to, you know, to my own life, and that I wish all the happiness in the world for because of all the happiness they brought into my life. It's kind of the nature of egoism. So Carrie Fisher will be missed. I can't thank her enough for, even in just the few hours that she performed, that I would regularly watch, how much she inspired me, how much joy she brought to me. And yeah, this episode of Sovryn Tech absolutely goes out to her. George Michael as well, please. You know, good thing 2016 will be over soon, and maybe, I don't know, whatever is going on is gonna stop. Maybe 2017 will be the year of life extension. Whew, let's do it. Anyway, enough Sovryn Tech for this week. I'll see you on the other side. Thank you.
You just experienced Sovryn Tech. Go to sovryntech.com, that's SOVRYN tech.com, and connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovryn Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.